with that, let me announce our first speaker. So Jaana Sinipuro, talking about fair data economy. Jaana, if you can, in the meantime, please turn on your camera.
Hello.
Hello, Jaana. Hello. So Jaana is the project director responsible for IHAN, the human-driven data economy at the Finnish Innovation Fund, Sitra. Sitra is at the forefront of bootstrapping fair data economy in the European Union and wider, with pilot projects and infrastructure supporting them. So she will present the ideas and efforts being pursued in that regard. So please, Jaana, thank you.
Okay, thank you for your nice introduction. And could you just say that slides are working? Is that okay?
Yes, the slides are working.
Okay, great. So hello, everyone. Yes, I work as a project director at Sitra, which is a Finnish Innovation Fund. Quite an old organization, over 50-year-old, under the Finnish Parliament. So that makes us a safe collaboration partner to innovate on the fair data economy and to innovate on the new things we need for building the brighter future together. Currently, we work in 3 different themes. One is democracy and participation of the individuals. Sustainable solutions and circular economy have been one of the strong focuses at Sitra for many, many years. And now the fair data economy will be our theme, overarching theme for the next 4 years. It kind of overlaps very nicely with the European data strategy and the Commission's data strategy implementation time. So my own background is from the data and analytics. Before joining Sitra 5 years ago and building the operating model for working with healthcare permit authority, I was working in a private company called SAS Institute, working with data and analytics for 17 years. So when I joined Sitra and when I saw this opportunity with the GDPR, enabling free flow of data, working on practical trials, doing some papers work, the whole toolbox that Sitra has, I was very happy because I thought that that's something that's been missing, building more awareness for the use of data. And then if we can challenge the existing models like platform-based companies in the US and Chinese models and build something on the European values, that's been my personal mission and not just my project for the last 3 years. So I'm very happy to see that we will continue the work on the fair data economy in the previous years. So basically, what we mean by fair data economy, we're trying to build a model that's fair for the society, individuals, and also companies benefiting and enabling more data-driven services to be built on freely shared data. So the whole thing is built on the trust, and I think that's a very interesting question. Although also for the European companies, can we build on the European values? And luckily, I think that technical development has brought some new tools to build on a more decentralized model for building data economies. So that's why I think that there's a great fit between at the policy level, what's happening at the regulative side with the new regulative initiatives at the EU Commission, but also from in the technical landscape. In the past 3 years, we've been working on building our own testbed, and I was very happy to see DataFund being one of the early pilot companies working on our testbed and building practical solutions for our blueprint. So working on technology, working on enterprise architectures, enabling data sharing, that's been our mission since very early days. Creating practical tools to enable GDPR practices to put in and data portability put in practice, and creating these trust networks based on technology. But of course, you need to be very transparent with the ways that you share your data. So we've also done a lot of work for data sharing networks. So the rule book for fair data economy, there are several rule books, but I think our rule book encompasses also the ethical questions, ethical control questions. So it's kind of made for fair data economy and also many-to-many parties data sharing pilots. But that's just one part of the trust. Of course, you need to educate people, you need to influence on the policymakers, you need to educate people at the organizations to build more responsible and transparent organizational cultures. So lately we've been working a lot also with corporate social responsibility and how we can build data strategies that are more transparent and maybe minimize the use of personal data. So we've been working on from the many angles trying to solve this topic for fair data economy. And what's very important for you to know is that everything is reusable. Everything is meant for the societies and the companies to be reused. And I think this is the common mission we all share, how to create a balance between all stakeholders' needs, but also interests and rights. And this is the extremely interesting question, building on the My Data principles and building on the My Data thinking. Can we build those business models that are equally transparent and maybe balanced between privacy, but also from the business point of view? And based on the experience we have, we really think that this is possible. And also all the initiatives that we see at the moment, I think they are moving towards the same direction and building more alignment, but we also need to amplify the voice of the communities. So that's why one of the next steps we will do in the new theme is to maybe work more closely with the chosen communities and amplify the messages through the practical pilots, sense-making work that we are doing in Sitra, and also networking and organizing different initiatives to work for the same direction with those limited resources that we have. But I think the group of people who have been here working for the fair data economy and European data economy is quite small. So I would call it a country club approach. We all more or less know each other, or we follow the same conferences, seminars. So I don't see any obstacles. Why not try to scale this? Why not try to build a new policy area based on a community approach? And that's what I would like to do. What's my personal mission for the next 4 years? Building a new policy area that's more human-centric, that's more focused on the society, showing that actually we can build something concrete on the European values. Of course, it's a huge task. There's so many initiatives working or initiatives existing, both from the technical point of view, both on the legislative point of view, so many new legislations that are in the draft versions and commentary rounds. And then at the same time, there's urgent needs to speed up the digitalization. So if we manage to influence the policy level, if we manage to bring more cohesion into work that we have so far done at the individual initiatives, I think that we can promote the whole topic of fair data economy. So as I said, in the past 3 years, we've been doing lots of trials, pilots, showing that we can do these kind of things in practice. It's been quite scattered collaboration with Open and Agile Smart Cities, with Data Sovereignty Now, iShare, Data Fund, My Data Community, IDSA for the GAIAX work. So I think this Sovereignty Now movement is a very good example how we can build different communities or bring different communities together and start building a common agenda. the Data Sovereignty Now community is working with the policymakers, but also with the soft standardization to build on data sovereignty. And I'm very happy to see that also My Data Global is now a member in Data Sovereignty Now. So I think in practice, of course, we had the different technologies. There are companies who are more like focused on a blockchain technology. There are small research institutes, ideological entities in the Data Sovereignty Now community. It might be that there are some, well, different viewpoints in the beginning, but we are seeing more and more common messaging come through, and that way we can influence more efficiently on the policymaker. And that's been one of the Citra's core missions since the early days of the IHAN project that I was leading. It's interesting to see how this data sovereignty, or we are starting to see also design principles for data spaces to emerge. And the technical work like the GAIAX community is doing is also working through the governance models and rules and policies committee. So I think there's a room for making good suggestions on design principles. And since I have a background in enterprise architecture, I really like the idea of differing between different layers, working on the semantics, working on the technical layer, technical architecture. But if we want to create these single markets for European data, if we want to enable data sharing, I think we need to agree on those common design principles that all data spaces can be built on. In that way, we can be more efficient in the use of technology, and we will not like vote on one single technology alone. I think that will be much more effective, focusing the forces to agree on the design principles, not so much on technical details. And I'm not sure if this IDSA Open Day paper is already published, but this was presented in one of our events quite recently. And here you can see how they define the difference between per domain, per data space, per industry defined principles and interoperability standards, trust data value governance standards, as an opposite to soft infrastructure, which is the common layer. So I think this also leads us maybe to the world where we can support multiple entities, multiple companies, multiple organizations to work on for the same goal, but a little bit from the different angles. And we need this kind of papers to prove that actually there are existing solutions, and we need to bring our brains together to build this coherent message for the European policymakers, how we build these things to happen in reality. So that's why I think we need this kind of societies, and we need platforms for collaborations. I skip this slide and save some time for the questions. Rule books, I think those are the key in the soft infrastructure. And I'm very happy to see how the Citra's work has been adapted with the new governance, where they are building the skills data space or shared data sharing models for skills. But also one very interesting example from the Portugal, where they actually define their whole data governance practices based on the rule book, defining different roles, going through incentives for data sharing, what are the legal obligations, what are the technical obligations. So basically the whole health data governance board structure comes from the use of the rule book, and they've used it to define their data strategies. So rule book, what we would like to do in the next phase is to make some technical implementations and technical tools for implementing the template that's now just the paperwork, but still focusing, going through all those technical data related ethical questions questions related to your contracts and incentives, business models, that's useful work to create more understanding for the government goals and for the shared data that's needed for those new digital services. So we are starting to see more and more good practices. We are starting to see practical implementations at different levels, going from policy levels or soft infrastructure, self-regulation, to these technical layers that we need for building this European data model. And that's a very good start for the continuous work. So in the next few years, we will be working more closely with business communities. So working together with companies and also policymakers, maybe using the existing networks, promoting the idea of fair data economy. We need to, as I said in the beginning, we need to amplify the voice, and that's one of the Sitra's work is to build awareness, start societal changes with working with good partners, being a network of all the networks. And one thing that might be very relevant for you is the GAIAX. And of course, it's very much led through Germany and France and big industry players. But basically there as well, transparency, rights protection, European values are in the core. So there's been a little bit discussions if it's just focused on building the European cloud services. So is it more like decentralized architecture they are aiming to put into work? And of course, the whole GAIAX initiative is still building on. But goals are good. And the data is very important, has a very important role even there, how we enable digital single markets and data markets, internal data markets, fairness, transparency, rules. So even in the GAIAX initiative, I think there's a room for this common layer of common rules and architectures, not just technical standards, but also agreeing on the soft infrastructure side. And I'm very happy to see the way that IDSA, for instance, is working with GAIAX and promoting those soft design principles for data spaces. But what might be relevant for you is the way that GAIAX hubs are structured. So basically, they are now building different countries forming the GAIAX hubs. So the idea is that both the industry domains work through those hubs and participate in the GAIAX work. But then also technical community collaboration is done through the national hubs. So I think that German, French, also Finland has been very active in building their own GAIAX hub, but there are lots of actions around smart cities, intelligence manufacturing, mobility. I think skills is one of them, health domain. I myself have been working quite actively in the health domain. So that's also one way to connect with very core of the European development, is finding your way to the local hubs and working together with local hubs to make your messages stronger. So actually, Sitra is going to be a coordinator for the Finnish GAIAX hub. So I'm looking for more like practical insight on how we can build on the initiative like GAIAX hub and build more cohesion also from the very technical point of view and from the very, let's say, gigantic, very large initiative, build this flexibility for different initiatives. That's also one of the big missions in our next 4 years. So this was just a brief overview of how we see the latest developments in fair data economy at the policy level and technical level, but also on the soft measures, soft infrastructure level. And I strongly encourage you and to be in contact with you or be in contact with Data Sovereignty Now or some other communities to come along and build the message further. I think all the pieces of the puzzle are there. We just need to complete the picture now. So thank you for this opportunity to present my views.
Thank you, Jaana, for this presentation. And I think your call to action is for all of us. So we have to build this fair data economy together, and hope we will all rise to shine. I would like to open the floor now to questions. So you can either type them in the chat, or maybe we can tune you in if you have something more elaborate to ask. So I actually would like to ask you about the fair data economy issues. So how many do you think, so to reach this fair data economy state, right? So how much do you think technology will play a role, and how much the issues are societal and business ones? And how can we help with technology? So which is the most important missing piece of technology that would help enable fair data economy?
Well, the easiest for me is to reply from the recent work in the healthcare domain and also work in the GAIAX, where we identified identity management, of course, being a generic, very generic need for building this common enablers, identity and access managed IAM solutions, of course, but then also transparency, data catalogs. How to, of course, we have an inventory of different data catalogs. We know what data is available from where, but those are very static and those are very domain specific. So how to create more like overview, how to create more understanding about what data is available for the business development. So those are at least some of those common enablers that are not any industry specific or domain specific. I think we all agree that different consent based solutions are needed, and that's also for permit based data sharing is also a common need for all. Then I think that the big challenge is to decision makers to understand, I think, how we translate the technical terms and technical potential into the business terms or into the policymaker language. It needs to be quite simplified. So I think that from the organizational point of view, it's also very much a cultural and organizational topic. How we manage to build skills for those new business potential, new business skills, new data-driven business models.
Thank you. So we have another question. So thank you for the inspiring talk. What do you think are the major obstacles towards fair data economy? What reactions would you expect from the likes of Facebook, Google, etc.?
I'm counting on individuals. I'm counting on this, like every industry. I think there's been a time when with emerging industries and then with more maturing industries having more clear roles on how they behave, and that's why I think it's extremely interesting, this concept of data equity, being transparent but also handling data as an asset, and this idea of bringing data into the corporate responsibility frameworks, sustainable use of data. So this race of sustainability, digitalization, barriers in digitalization, concerns, public concerns, I think those are hopefully challenging the big players to change or adapt their current practices. And also the pressure that the EU regulatory bodies are putting on the use of the AI. It was very interesting to see the latest version of how they think to sanction unethical use of the AI. So I think that with building the pressure, both from the individuals and from the policymakers, regulative bodies, we can hopefully make the change. Unmute.
It always happens. Yes. So thank
It's
you, Jaana.
normally me.
It has to be someone. So thank you for your presentation, your inspiring presentation and your answers.